Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Hello, everybody. It's Becky Brown, and today we are going to have Dr. Jim Burns and Dr. Jill Hubbard. For the next 2 hours, we are going to be taking your calls at 1-800-229-3000, and we want to help you, so you can give us a call. Maybe there's something that you have been wondering about in your relationships or maybe your personal life. You just need a little bit of help. We are here for you. And, you know, one of the things that, Jim, you do so amazingly well is you help people in that next chapter of their life. You have written about it. You know, one of your books, which I love so much, is Doing Life with Your Adult Children, Keeping Your Mouth Shut and a Welcome Mat Out, or a version of that.
Yes, and it's so difficult to keep your mouth shut. Sorry, Becky, go ahead.
For example, Jill. You know, here's the thing, though, is it also can create a little bit of a crisis to have a quiet home and to have a little less of the energy that's going on. So what is exactly the empty nest season of life? How would you describe that, and how do you prepare for it?
Well, right. Well, first of all, I don't think people prepare very well for it. And I think that's one of the reasons they experience what we call the empty nest syndrome. And this isn't for everybody, but I would say almost a majority of people go through, some actually even anxiety, because now they say, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Because they'd invested 2 decades or more with their kids, and now their kids aren't there. It doesn't mean you're not the mom and the dad. It just simply means that you're now not a day-to-day parent, if you would. So with that empty nest syndrome, I mean, it looks differently. It's not a psychological syndrome as much as it is just an experiential syndrome. But I know for Kathy and I, she was the sun, and my kids were kind of the planets revolving around. I was the planet at home anyway, planet. And she felt like, wow, my life is over. You know, what am I going to do? I mean, she felt some anxiety and even some depression, which she didn't see coming because she hadn't prepared for it. Me, I just went to work earlier and went to work later. Now, my friends who are single, and I think Jill can talk to this, my friends who are single, they experience 2 deep losses. They have a connection with their kids differently than I think even a married couple. Plus, Kathy and I could kind of lean on each other. So they have the loss of their children. Again, the loss meaning of the home. They're still there, in the family. But then also sometimes it brings up those issues of either a divorce or a death. And so they kind of have this double whammy, and then they experience the empty nest syndrome. And the people who work through it find joy in the empty nest, and the people who don't, actually, they're not doing so well.
Yeah. Well, Jill, can you speak to that?
Well, right. And I've had my own anxiety about, when it's empty nest time, it's empty home time. Yes. Right. And so I think because of that, well, one, they keep coming back.
Right.
So every time I think, okay, this is it, right?
Yeah, the boomerang.
They come back and they inhabit the home. But I've also found a way it seems like God has brought other people along to fill my home.
Yeah.
And so in that, it's like, okay, God, this is an opportunity. This seems like a good fit. Great.
Right. I found that in the focus groups that I did before I wrote the book, people said, the people who did well, they found deep friendships. They said some of my best friends happened 50 and over, didn't expect that, but they put energy into that, like you said. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing. Other people's kids actually really appreciate you.
Right.
It's really nice.
That's so true.
Well, it is a new adventure. You can look at it that way, right, Jim and Jill? And
yes.
I think that, there's all different parts of our lives that God is working in the middle of all of that. And it's our challenge to keep moving forward and to see what God has for us in those times. If you have some difficulty with that, Jim has a couple of, what was your other book? Preparing for the Empty Nest? What was the other title, Jim, for your other book?
Finding Joy in the Empty Nest, then Doing Life with Your Adult Children. Keep your mouth shut and welcome that out. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Well, we're going to take calls. We'll be right back after this.
It had become very apparent that some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal. It's just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. New Life's Every Man's Battle Workshop can help.
After 7 years, just one weekend, a completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Workshop.
He said, I think this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
Now the workshop is coming to Orange County, California, June 2nd through the 4th. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com.
I just can't say enough of what New Life has done for our marriage.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. If you are struggling with the empty nest, or if this is something, that you're dealing with or maybe not dealing with, the Intimacy in Marriage Workshop could be a great place for you to begin to kind of work through those details with your spouse. And we would enjoy, telling you more about that. And you can give us a call or go to newlife.com. We are going to go to the calls, and you can call us 1-800-22000 for the next couple hours. We're going to talk with Todd, who's calling us from Garden Grove, California, listens to us online. We're glad you called. Todd, how can we help you?
Hey, good morning. So my wife and I are, I would say, maybe in some sort of marital distress. We're an adoptive family, and our kids have some special needs as influenced by traumatic histories. But we no longer agree on religious matters. So when we were married, we were, very much professing Christians, and right now it's just me. And so our worldviews have changed, I think, somewhat or maybe dramatically over the last many years. And now we disagree on basically all things human sexuality. And I've got basically a historical Orthodox Christian perspective, and she would have the mainstream cultural perspective. And we've got our kids who are getting older, and we haven't figured out how to talk to the kids about sexuality. I mean, like in general, I had the birds and the bees talk with my kids, and they were like 6 because I wanted to get way ahead of that. But as far as like LGBTQ, et cetera, plus elements of the conversation, and in culture and in media, the cartoons that they watch and so forth, I don't even know where to get started with how to have this conversation with the children, and then I guess with her about the children. So that's the basic idea. Hit me with what you got.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thanks, Todd. Jim, let's start with you.
Hey, Todd, let me ask, are you and your wife, I might have missed this, are you and your wife divorced?
No.
No, okay, so you're married in the same house with these different views. Got it. Yeah.
Yes. Though, if I can be perfectly candid, 10 years down the line, I'm afraid of that. But,
yeah.
But for now,
yeah.
I mean, my goal is to do this until I'm dead.
Yeah.
And let me just ask, how old are the kids, did you say?
11 and 8.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, 11 and 8. Okay. For one thing, what you just asked, I speak quite a bit on sexuality and teaching your kids healthy sexuality, et cetera. So I get that question all the time. I normally get it not from a married couple, but I get it from, a divorced family where one has taken a different route. So it's more unique to be in the same home and not be on the same page there. So again, yeah. I don't have an easy answer for you, but I do think I want to remind you, and you probably already know this, but all research, and by the way, it's both liberal and conservative, Christian and non-Christian. I mean, this is where we all agree on sexuality, maybe the only thing we agree on, is that all research says that the more positive, healthy, value-centered sex education kids receive from home, from their parents, the less promiscuous and less confused they'll be. Now, you got a shot at confusing them like crazy, because if you come from one angle and, mom comes from another, that's going to be, unique. One of the things I would try to do with your, you are co-parenting along with, you're married to, your wife here, is I would probably put a couple of the things aside and try to see what you agree on. And then, your kids are at that exact age that they need to hear this. For example, at age 11 is when kids see pornography. So I can't imagine that your wife would think pornography is a good thing. So things like
Correct.
having conversations about porn at 11, 10 and 11 is when we say that's when those conversations have sexual systems, all that kind of good stuff. The 8-year-old, it's time to talk about, things like, and I think your spouse could agree with this probably, even though she has a different worldview, but she might say, God made your body. And if you could say God made boys and God made girls, she may have trouble with that, but you might be able to agree on a lot of stuff. And then now you've got let's say you agreed on 65% of it. Well, then you're still giving your kids some good, healthy sex education and helping them out. However, on the things you don't agree on, I think there's two ways to look at it. One is you keep your mouth shut. I'm not totally thinking that's probably the best idea for your kids, but one option is say, here's what we believe. Here's what I believe, and share your belief. And some people have different beliefs. But if you could take the dominant role in this, and your wife may allow that, may not. That could be a good thing. But you got when you're talking about gender issues and things like that, worldview, you're in a tough situation. So I'm not saying that you just deny it and never give your kids that opportunity, but maybe there's other avenues. Does your wife allow them to go to church?
Well, as I implied at the beginning, they've got these, traumatic histories and
understand.
special needs and where they are.
Yeah, adoptive.
But
Understand. Yeah.
They can't. Church is not built for my kids.
Okay, I understand.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why I was asking that, even though you had said that, because some churches are more built for that than others, if you would, because sometimes they can get a good, healthy worldview from outside of mom and dad. It's not the best. What I'm saying is to people, no, let mom and dad do the heavy lifting. But I would try to get on the same page with your spouse. And Jill?
Well, I like that idea of focusing on what you have in common, because the tendency, Todd, is to focus on where you disagree because you have the most anxiety about that. And then that becomes almost everything, right? And so I think if you guys can acknowledge with each other, okay, look, we know we come from different positions. And this is not, when it comes to our kids, this is not about convincing each other that our way is right. It's about what's going to help our kids. So apart from the content, it's what Jim said, minimizing the confusion. You already have kids with traumatic history. You don't need to introduce ideas that will be confusing to them, right? And if they have traumatic histories, I'm imagining they may be a little bit emotionally delayed. And so they're younger than their chronological age. Right. And so maybe even agreeing with your wife, higher level issues that are more complex that they may not understand the intricacies of. Can we wait till they're an older age? Can we wait till their emotional development catches up before we start talking about that? Unless they bring us questions. So when they start asking the questions, that's when you need to address the issues. But we don't want to prematurely introduce issues out of our own need for them to know. And so
that is so
you
good.
Stay with the basics, and you stay with the things, like Jim said, that you both can agree on, because you want them to be children as long as possible, right? Especially with the traumatic history, to be able to get all the good stuff and to be protected. It used to be years ago, we would protect kids, right? When the milk carton had the missing child on it, you turned it away from your child because they don't need to entertain those fears, right? And you are their protector. And so be their protector. And but also entertain their questions and be aware of what they're, hearing in school, and then agree as much as possible to delay some things.
So I have a question for you, Todd. On top of all of this, where are you guys, where are you and your wife connecting? Not just about parenting, but just, when you said that you're worried that somewhere down the road divorce is going to happen, I'm afraid that when that is a seed in your thought process, you may be heading that way unintentionally. What is the big divide for you guys? What happened?
Yes. So just that's a fear of mine, but it's absolutely it's not an option in my mind. I'm as committed to being married forever as I can possibly be. So we had the adoption story was really traumatic, and going through that phase left. It was just brutal. It was like on a from people who know the stories. They're like, wow, this is the hardest story I've ever heard or I've ever experienced. We heard that many times over. There's a case like ours that went to the Supreme Court. It was nuts. Anyway, we were really grateful for that Supreme Court ruling. But through that whole scenario, some people, when they go through crisis, it's like a crucible, and they find God, and they draw closer through the pain. And some people turn away. And I've been a pretty faithful Christian my whole life, and I found that when I went through that, God was my rock and my solace. And without God, I don't know how I would have done any of it. And I was sort of the rock for the family. And through it all, I was able to draw nearer her. And it was just the exact opposite of my wife. Now, there's other factors, but that was probably the biggest one, and that was quite a while ago. And so for the last many years, there's been just a furthering distance between her and all things religious, and frankly with me as sort of by proxy. So yeah, how are we connecting? The answer is very little. Our life is still traumatic, right? because of the story that we live, and it's we're on the same team. We love our kids to death. We want to be connected. We all this, but we sleep very little, and there's safety concerns in the house. So we live in our lid is flipped basically continuously, and we've been in survival mode for a decade.
Todd,
as an example, nobody can watch our children, so we can't go on dates.
Right.
Just as a snapshot.
Right.
Well,
I hear that in your voice, and that's the reason why I asked. And I figured that probably was the change agent. And it's interesting because you're still thinking, okay, we got to do this, but it's like you're treading water in the middle of a hurricane, and I can hear that. And I wonder if we were to connect you with a counselor, maybe that you guys, not just for the marriage, but just for support. I mean, it's hard to raise kids, period.
Difficult children,
I don't care. Yeah. But even on top of that, when you've had trauma and the trauma of all of the things that are going on, I would like to send you a copy of How We Love. I think that's going to help you not only with the things that are going on in your marriage, but also with what's going on with your relationship with your kids. The historical impact of all of this makes a big difference. But Jill, do you have any other suggestions?
Well,
as far
I was
as
thinking How We Love and How We Love Our Kids.
Because there you go. We'll send both of them.
Right. You get the foundation from How We Love and then see how it impacts your kids. And that may be helpful for your wife as well to see. Right.
Yeah, because I do think that's going to be the
not that you have a lot of time to read, but
well, that's what I was thinking
with
too.
High need children,
but Todd, let us get you connected with a therapist who specializes in that as well. I just think that whenever you're in a situation where there's a lot of stress like this, you have to reach out for support. It can feel overwhelming. People on the outside who are like, "I will step in when you need me." And you trust them.
Right. Even if you can only do a Zoom appointment, right?
Yes. Right.
Because you can't leave your kids. At least it's, some contact.
Well, we will be praying.
And
Go
Todd,
ahead.
I wanted to say, I think you're one of the most incredibly articulate men, and I appreciate you taking the stand that you've taken. And you just, and as you share this, I know we just hit the surface, because way below the surface, we're not even touching
we don't know
some
the
of those
details.
things.
Yeah.
But make sure you do this with replenishing relationships around you. Or, sometimes people say, well, either I'm crazy or they're crazy, and they're talking about a relationship or something. No, you're going through a really tough situation, and your wife is going through a really tough situation. And I want to encourage you to do what Jill said. Find a support system. And again, we don't know the other level, but find a support system that could help you have this a better relationship with your spouse, because again, she's hanging in there with you, and you're hanging in there with her. So it's not over. And maybe if there was a different support system, and somebody can help you, somebody can coach you along with this or counsel you on this.
And it's so, these types of situations so divide couples.
Yes.
So many couples, as you know, don't make it. And so any way that you can set aside differences and lean in towards your wife.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't even mean a difference of faith that can divide couples. When there is a trauma or a crisis, right?
The kids alone, right?
Well, but the kids, or even within a couple's relationship, there's so many things that can divide you, as opposed to getting stronger together. And we're going to be praying for you, Todd, but we're going to connect you also with some folks that maybe you can reach out, and we're going to continue to reach out. We're going to take calls for a couple hours, 1-800-229-3000. We've got some lines open. We've got some calls waiting, and we're going to help as many people as we can, because people got stuff. We want to help each other along this journey. We'll be right back.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
I've been listening to New Life for many years, gone to a few workshops. I want to support a ministry that helps people connect with God and with others and gives them the tools to help transform their lives.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Healing, 100 Days from Freedom from Shame, and 100 Days of Freedom from Anger. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are going back to the calls. We have some lines open. If you want to call, 1-800-229-3000. We're going to talk with Lynn, who's calling us from Los Angeles, listens on KKLA. Hi, Lynn. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Hi, thank you. I'm calling because I'm going to talk to my sister-in-law tonight along with my husband. We heard from my mother-in-law that she's mad at us because we are in contact with her son, who is gay, and we don't live in the same area. I'm from California. We're going to visit back east soon, and we were planning to meet him for lunch to see him. And so yeah, my question is, how do I respond to her tonight? Because she's pretty mad at us, and it could be because we didn't talk to her first before making plans, and so we need to know where to go with that.
Okay, Jill, you want to start?
Wow. Well, it sounds like your mother-in-law has some, strong feelings, as well as some exertion of what she expects from the family. I mean, you guys are all adults, but she's not telling you. You're hearing this secondhand. Is that right, Lynn?
The one who's mad is my sister-in-law.
Oh, the sister-in-law's
Mother-in-law
mad.
told her.
Yeah.
Oh,
and my
sorry.
mother-in-law-
I got that backwards. Okay.
That's okay. And us too, I have been talking to my mother-in-law because I told her I've been talking to the grandson.
Yeah.
Her grandson. And
Oh, it's sister. Okay, it's sister's son. Okay. But grandma is on board in terms of loving him.
She just mentioned that I want to come see him also when we come visit.
Okay.
And meet for lunch and see what our place is and that. If anybody else want to go to lunch with us. But right now, my sister-in-law is not in a relationship with her son. She won't have any contact with him. The husband won't, and that family won't. I sense my mother-in-law is heartbroken and she wants relationship with him.
Okay.
But she's kind of following her daughter.
Right.
Wishes.
So I think it's really important first, Len, to come in to the conversation with a lot of grace and love and to really hear your sister-in-law out because she's more fired up. She's mad. So you really need to hear, and maybe you have before, but really let her say everything she wants to say, right?
Okay.
Don't try to defend yourself or your position right away. Really hear it and try to empathize with how tough this must be for her as the mother and how much you understand her position. And then, you're going to have to kind of see how it goes, but say, we really do want to understand, and we want you to know that reaching out to him is in no way us trying to go against you or against your stance, and you might even agree with her on some things, right? And right. that perhaps, and I don't know if this is true, but your thought might be that while she is they are setting a hard line boundary with him or stance, you're trying to be just kind of a more remote tether to the family. And that kind of might be another way to help the situation, right? Like you're not in the role of parent. So you might even agree with the stance she's taking, but to have him still tethered to the family. So in a sense, he knows that he's loved, even though perhaps they disagree with his choices in life, right? Sometimes that duality of approach can work, right? So that he has an alternative place where he can go and talk more freely, but his parents feel like they have to set a different standard. Right.
Well, and a lot of the times, Jill, don't you think in that sense that the sister-in-law feels some shame on some level that she hasn't been able to do what you're going to do, Lynn? It's not that it's necessarily against her, but she feels bad because of the broken relationship. And
maybe so.
Obstacles in relationships get bigger the longer the time goes on. And it is kind of tricky. Jim, what would you offer Lynn?
Well, I actually really like what both of you said. I think Jill's right that, you go to the sister-in-law. Again, your mother-in-law is the one who's giving you information. And I wouldn't even try to make it, try to go tit for tat. I would just simply say, I understand there's an apology. I should have probably talked to you. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
And in that, what you're doing is kind of defusing the situation. If she is mad at you, it is so honorable. I mean, if you were here, I would pat you on the back and say, way to go. Because actually, a mother who is shunning their kid, even though they disagree, a mother wants their kid to have a relationship, and you may be offering that. You may be that safe person. But I think you honor the relationship with the sister-in-law. You protect your own life, and you're just going to have to hear what she has to say. But I wouldn't go back and forth with it. I just simply go, I think I need to apologize.
And you might even say, okay, I'm going to take your words and really think about it.
Yeah.
You might not button it all up in one conversation.
You don't have to in one con.
Right? We're going to really reflect and pray on this and follow up with you later.
Well, Lynn, I hope that that's encouraging to you. We're going to send you a copy of the 1 Year Bible for Women. I think that'll encourage you. And, it is, relationships and family get tricky, and there's a lot of different reasons for that, but it's very honorable to be able to find the ways that you can stay connected, like you said, Jill. We're going to stay connected with you right after this.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. Chris Williams on coaching.
Oftentimes I get asked, what is the difference between therapy and coaching? The biggest difference between the two is that a therapist is going to be looking for a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas a coach is going to look at a particular issue and help a person work through that.
If you need a coach, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
If you're looking at an issue in your life that you just kind of want to change, whether it be your weight or leadership or other areas of behavioral patterns, check out coaching. There can be some really, really helpful things for you.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 and talk to us about getting a New Life coach. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. If you haven't heard, we started a matching gift campaign, and we have a seed of $325,000, and every dollar that you give up to that amount will be doubled, so until we meet that amount. And it's so exciting because you hear about the life change that your donations give. And here's an example. Here's a testimony that says, after 33 years of marriage and seeing 2 counselors, I wasn't sure there was hope for us in our marriage. Other people I knew struggled, and none of us had solutions. I went to the Intimacy in Marriage weekend, and it answered so many questions and gave me the tools to resolve the issues and misunderstandings. I have left with encouragement and joy, and I see myself and my husband and our marriage in a brand new way. Thank you, New Life, for this life-altering intensive workshop. You know, New Life is life-altering because God works through the workshops, through the many different resources, through the program. We hear callers all the time talk about how we have helped them walk through some really difficult times in their life. So if you want to be part of that, if that wants to be a message that you give out, give to this matching gift campaign and give to New Life. It will make a difference in the lives of so many people. And right now we're going to continue on with the calls. You can call us 1-800-229-3000. And we're going to talk with Eric, who's calling us from West Virginia, listens on Sirius XM. Hi, Eric. How can we help you today?
I've run into conversations with friends, guys that we attend church with in groups, and I sense frustration that situations are such that they have younger children, and right now that's all that they and their wives are, that they're parents. Strictly parents, and and listening to some of the earlier discussion, it seemed as though we were talking a little bit about sheltering and protecting and all those kinds of things, which are which we do. But there seems to be, and I noticed this in some of the ministries that I'm involved with that deal with younger parents and their children. I'm concerned that we as Christian parents care for, protect, to the point that we aren't preparing our kids to live in the world for Christ. We're in this world, we're not of it, but we're wanting to protect them from it. And then that extends to the point where all of a sudden, 18, 19 years go by, and you find yourself as an empty nest couple again, and you don't know how to function, because that's all you wanted to be, was a parent. So my question is, how do I gently provide, and I'm older, how do I gently provide some insights? And I guess it begins with the mistakes that we made, my wife and I made, in not preparing ourselves from day one, that one day our kids will be out into the world, and hopefully as disciples, but also we're going to be a married couple again.
Okay. All right, Eric, that's good concern. Jim, you want to speak to that?
Eric, you're singing my song, buddy. Really. The fact is that any marriage that's based on being child-focused. Now, I understand when they have little kids. I mean, it takes a lot more time and energy and just, physical exhaustion. But even during that time, I'm asking people, I wrote a book called First Few Years of Marriage, and I'm asking these people in the first few years who do have kids to give each other 1%. Would you be willing to give 1% of your time? That's 90 minutes a week, 1% of your time per week, and go on a date. And sometimes you don't have the money, so it means you co-op babysitting and you figure it out. No one has ever said to me, that a child-focused marriage is a good one. But yet people do it all the time, and again, we're tired, or we drift in our marriage relationship. And then, like you said, Eric, what happens is we get into the empty nest, and we buried a lot of that marriage stuff because we're so focused on getting the kids together for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever. We don't work on each other. Actually, as Christ followers, I think our model should be a relationship with God first, then our marriage. Now, our marriage doesn't need as much time because our kids typically take more time, especially in those younger years, like you mentioned. But we're modeling a relationship for our kids. We don't want them to become entitled kids who think that mom and dad put all of their time and energy into the relationship with the kids. So we need to role model that our marriage is important. And by doing that, that's actually great for us as a couple. It's also great for the kids to have that role model. So you're singing the song, and I find there's such a need with people who have a child-focused marriage. They really want that intimate marriage. And by the way, a lot of times men don't like that word intimacy. Like when we always talk about intimacy in marriage, intimacy means connection. I actually wrote a book called Creating an Intimate Marriage, and the men think it's on sex and the women think it's on connection. So intimacy is more than just sex.
Emotional connection.
Yeah, and they don't like even the word emotional intimacy.
Okay.
They'll take emotional connection a little bit more. But the point that I'm saying is, Eric, is I think they will listen to you, especially because you are older and because, like you said, all of us have had child-focused relationships. So I think what you do is, you start from what your belief is, but go really light on them because it's really hard. But you ask them honestly for something like that, what I just said, the 1%. Give them some practical things to do, because a lot of times I find that a lot of people who have child focus, they honestly don't know how to get out of it. So people like you can actually mentor them, and nobody thinks they're the mentor because they never have their activity. I don't think they have it together, but you can mentor these young men that you're having conversations with.
Maybe you could babysit.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking that, Jill.
You and your wife.
Go ahead. If I could follow up, what I'm also seeing, unfortunately, is that some older parents, they haven't made that turn, that transition, right. And so now they are, and please forgive me, but it's not always, but in so many times it's the mom of the in the dynamic. She, even as the children have reached adulthood, they cannot let go. And
You're right.
And I see that it's affecting marriages.
Yes.
of the grandparents now. Even it affects the marriage of even adult children. So I feel like as a church universal, we have rightly emphasized we have got to help our kids understand Satan is real and the world, and we have decisions to make for him. But we have turned that so far that we don't let our kids, one, prepare to live in the world as disciples, but when they go, we can't let go, because that's I hate to say it's almost our security blanket, our relationship with our kids, and it breaks my heart.
I think you're right, Eric. And over the years, there's a lot of time and investment, right, and anxiety and worry and all these things, especially if you're a conscientious parent, right? And if you've neglected the marriage, like, it really should be a parallel process. And I love your percentage, Jim. It doesn't have to be equal percentages, but you have to put that into the mix if you're going to have it later on, right?
And as Eric said, the demographic where divorce is on the increase is what they call the graying of divorce. It's 50 and over. Well, that's because they didn't put their energy into it. So, and we in the church do need to focus on that more and more.
Right.
I was just in Atlanta, and it was sold out. It was a sold out event on, the second half marriage stuff.
Yeah.
And what I found was a lot of the conversations were about, how do I release my relationship from my adult children? I wasn't even talking about adult children. I was talking about their marriages in the second half. But the questions kept coming back. What Eric is saying is that how do I relinquish? My kids aren't doing it right. So how do I relinquish that when they're not doing it right? We still have to give them the passport to adulthood and make sure that our marriage is a foundation, so that we will have something to offer them as they get older and be a safe place for them.
Right.
It's very good.
And you're right. We have to separate out our own identity, and mothers often over-identify. And if that's your main identity in life, right, you're not going to want to give that up. And it's hard to turn the off switch.
Yes.
Right? And so it needs to be, and to your other point, Eric, about the kids and facing the world, a gradual releasing.
Yes.
Right? And letting them stumble. So.
Well, we appreciate you calling, Eric. We're going to send you a copy of Dr. Dave Stoops' Loving Well, Finishing Strong, which I think will encourage you as you do mentor these young men and these families. And you're right. As a church, we do continue to need to lead each other, to pray and encourage each other. We're so glad that you called. We're going to continue taking calls after this break, 1-800-229-3000. We've got a call with Paula. We're going to talk to her next, and some more lines open, some folks that are waiting, but we would love for you to call us, because there might be something that you just need to ask about. It might be a relationship with family. It could be something that you're struggling with yourself. I talked briefly with somebody this morning who is just feeling a little depressed and recognized it and wanted to know, how do I get out of this? Well, we can help you. Give us a call. We'll be right back.
My husband was involved with a pornography addiction. He was unfaithful. I called the wedding off. He stepped out on the marriage and ended up having a child.
The Restore Workshop is designed for a woman dealing with a man's sexual addiction issues.
My husband is a recovering sex addict. There were strip clubs, other ladies.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Workshop will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
Restore has empowered me and has given me the tools to work through my anger, work through my pain, work through my confusion, and help me realize that I am worthy.
Being here and being surrounded by people who get it has given me my power back.
The Restore Workshop is being held online Saturday, June 10th. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to find out more. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com.
Thank you, Restore. You have changed my life forever.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 Steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live. This is Terry McIntosh with a program note about the many ways you can listen to New Life Live. You can, of course, listen on your local radio station, but if there isn't a local station or you miss an episode, you can get our New Life Live podcast. It's available through most podcast providers like Spotify, iTunes, or iHeartRadio. Just search for New Life Live with Steve Arterburn. And for an even more complete list of ways to listen, go to newlife.com and click on the Listen tab.
All of our listeners. We're going to talk with Paula right now, and we're going to continue taking calls. So if you have a question, call us 1-800-229-3000, 1-800-229-3000. I cannot say that word for some reason. Hi, Paula. Paula's calling from Burbank and listens on KKLA. How can we help you today?
It's just so much, but my children and other people say that I have a tone in my voice. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but they say I have a harsh tone. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? I've had my ears checked, everything checked to understand what am I reflecting on people that's hurting them, because when I get anxious or excited about something is important, they say, oh gosh, your tone is just too harsh. And I'm really want to overcome. And this is just overwhelming to me, and my kids, like, I respond harsh or too harsh to my daughter, and she says, you're so hard, so I'm like, I'm trying to understand, what am I reflecting on people that's hurting them? And I'm not trying to
it's a great...
Well, Paula,
it's great awareness, Paula.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love that you received it from others and that you are genuinely wanting to understand and look at it. Because a lot of times, especially people that tend to be harsh, will push that away. And you're not doing that. So way to go on that. I think this could be one, the people that are telling you, get as much information as you can, right? Sometimes you might want to give your kids, or you might want to give your kids permission to point it out when it's happening so you can be aware. It's really good to be aware of also reflecting on your body and how do you carry your body? How do you carry tension? Are you aware of anxiety? I know for me, my kids at times will say, Mom, take it down a notch. And I'm like not even aware that I'm really excited or I'm anxious. And they're like, Mom, you seem a little anxious. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I take a deep breath, right? And kind of let my body calm down. Sometimes I'm just really excited and they're not in the mood for me to be excited. But it's important to be aware of, the impact you have on others. And we certainly don't want to do anything that would push people away. And sometimes we have... Go ahead.
Well, no, I just feel like, my daughter said, you're harsh, or you seem like to have that tone with me, but not with my brother.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a typical daughter.
And I go, God, and I'm like, I want her to be able to make it in this world, be successful, and I tell her these things, and she said that I'm just too hard.
Okay.
At my tone.
So, Paula, can I tell you something? Because I totally get this, because I have a girl and a boy, and my daughter's the older one. And so we have to really remember that daughters hear criticism out of advice giving from moms. And what they're hearing is completely different than what you mean. Of course, you want to equip your daughter. It's a harsh world, right? But at a certain point, depending on how old they are, what she needs to hear from you is that you believe in her, that she does have what it takes, that you know she can do it. Because especially in the young adult years, they're not as confident in that, but they are puffing themselves up to try to match what they think they need to be, but it's not fully integrated yet. And so if we come along and give our little, helpful info, we kind of deflate their balloon. And they feel like, oh, see, you're telling me I can't do it. I'm never going to be able to do it. And we validate their own self-doubts, and we don't want to do that. So,
That's good insight,
and
Jim.
moms do have a different tone with boys. It's a different type of dynamic with our boys and girls. So a lot of daughters feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, what would you add?
You know, Paul, I would add a couple things. One is you got to define harsh. What you may be an intense person, and sometimes deep intensity, which is a great trait, can come across harsh. And so if you're being intense about it, so you may have to ask them, do you feel like I'm being intense or am I being harsh? And I want to just give you a quick acronym. I have this on my desk in my office. This has helped me so much. It just has AWE, A period, W period, E. And it stands for affection, warmth, and encouragement. And I know that my kids and my wife need more affection, warmth, and encouragement than, for me giving them advice or being intense or being, harsh or whatever. And because I'm with them, you're amazing because you're saying, how can I learn to be maybe a little less harsh? But for me, I just brought up the idea of intensity because even I felt that a little bit in your voice. My wife, I had a conversation. This is Mother's Day, so it was just the other day on Mother's Day. My daughter, we were having a little get together at our house, and my daughter kind of said, when you said it, Mom, kind of calm down. And I think Kathy was talking about something that was going on in our culture, and I said, well, you came across intense, not really harsh, but it was just she has strong opinions. She comes across as intense, and none of us were ready for that. We were ready to have fun and celebrate, and we didn't want to talk about the intensity of a goofy culture. Sometimes it's timing as well, but I would ask them if you're intense or harsh, and then affection, warmth, and encouragement. Man, that's part of laying the foundation. Then they'll take some of our insight if we lay it with affection, warmth, and encouragement.
I love that.
Right.
Paula, we're going to send...
That it's important what I'm sharing, and I feel like just all my life people don't listen. And it's like I have to just push it out, to get
Paula?
something out there.
Yeah, and that is really hurtful because I hear you. You have a lot of good things to say.
Yeah.
And I think it might be good if you share some of those things with your friends and with your kids. It's less about being heard and it's more about being with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think, Paula, too, that I would encourage you, I'm trying to think of a good book. I'm actually crossing between Healing is a Choice and Take Back Your Life because that internal pressure that you're feeling right now is what's coming out. And that's not what your intention is. But when we can get calm on the inside, it's amazing how we can relate. And I love the acrostic that you offered there, too, Jim. We were writing notes on that. But, Paula, we'll send you, I'm going to send you a copy of Healing is a Choice. I think that'll get you in the process of, you're already aware, and it's just that healing process. Go ahead, Jill.
I was just going to say, and I think therapy could really be helpful.
Yes,
if that's something that you would
Especially
be willing
when
to
you're
do.
Open to it like
I
Paula
think
is.
it would really be helpful.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love, that's the key. Awareness is that first step of this is something that I want to change, or this is something that's been a problem that, people point out. And the fact that they pointed out, I think, Jill, you already said this, they're seeing that. Thanks for calling, Paul. We've got some lines open if you want to give us a call at 1-800-229-3000. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Jill, for all of your wisdom. And of course, thank you, listeners. If you need to go to a workshop or need any resources, you can visit newlife.com. There is so much there for you, and we want to help you have
Thanks
a best
for
life.
listening.
We'll be
We
back.
hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.